Hi, everyone.
Great.
Welcome to the Marmoset Poetry Series, Volume 1, the first ever by the Marmoset Poetry Group. And tonight, our very first feature is Aaron Smith. So I want to welcome everyone that's watching this or watching the recording. And now I'm going to turn it over to a member, Matt Jasper.
Uh, Welcome everyone, and thanks so much for sharing your evening with us. I typed out an introductory statement because I can't remember a thing, and it might be a little bit too long, but I'm hoping to make up for that, that Aaron reads for a long time, because I always want readings to be longer than 15 minutes. I always want someone to go for, 20, 25, whatever, half an hour, read their whole book, would be my dream. But here's what I just wrote up quickly. I tacked on a paragraph, and then Heather helped me fix the later part. Uh, so, welcome everyone, and thanks so much for sharing your evening with us. Marmoset was just formed by myself, along with the dear friends Heather Kays, Virginia Chase Sutton, Timothy Gager, and Elizabeth McDuffie as admins. I am kind of a loser poet who was officially promising in my 20s, then ran out of time for words and for a few decades when a busy life and temporary health problems intervened. I am crawling back into writing regularly again, and just last year found our group member Elizabeth in her role as publisher of Meat for Tea magazine, with assorted podcasts and a book publishing wing. How refreshing to sort of find someone who could see through my language thick with autism and obsession. I felt less a poetaster and more a poet by finding her little publishing conglomerate. I wish you all the same luck in finding others who are sort of simpatico here. And by the way, Meat for Tea is open for submissions, so send them poems. They have a great eye. Uh, I met Tim 15 years ago when he invited me to read in his famous Dyer literary series, and he's a prolific phenom, well represented on my bathroom shelves. Uh, and I did end up reading those two stories I told you about to my son, who's my most autistic kid. He gets the prize. We have a special meeting about him for his IEP tomorrow morning, uh, and and to keep him from running out of the school and things like that. But he's super bright. He just hates being there. Uh, and Virginia, I found somehow by accident when she posted that her husband never read her poems. And I think I offered to be her, like, honorary husband poem reader or something like that. We made a joke about it. And she called me hubby for a month or something. And then I actually started reading the poems. And I'm super obsessed with What Brings You to Del Amo, which I have here. It's just the greatest book ever. But here, I'll go back to my little script here because if I go off script, that'll be terrible. Uh, so yeah, and now it says, yeah, I found her online voice so funny that I had to study her poems. Please find and read her books in general, yet especially the one titled "What Brings You to Del Amo." It is an absolute classic of how to fall apart and then come back together again in what happens to be a mental hospital. It also won the Samuel French Morse Prize in 2007. Heather Case is one of the most kind and hardworking writers I've met, and like Virginia, navigates trauma beautifully and at times with a sense of humor. Heather's new book, Genomes and Lies, is available, and she also, I noticed today in researching her that she has a poem up at McSweeney's called If Charles Bukowski Wrote a Children's Book About Emotional Regulation. So I thought that was you, right? I mean, that's crazy. I didn't know that about you. So, anyway, sharing and even publishing poetry is largely a social act, though we labor in isolation. Sometimes the greatest gift can be to be seen well. Here is our short group manifesto, soon to be followed by Virginia introducing Aaron. And we wrote this silly thing at our group page, and feel free to tell me how to revise it. Marmoset never sets and always rises over the language we walk through, casting light on poems and poets we love. We take cues from our fellow primates, how to be curious, a little strange, sometimes not quite human, in the quiet work of stretching our spirits and our lines toward a world we're willing to look at, question, and reimagine. There is space for wide voices, unruly voices, and the ones still figuring out how to speak. We're newly launched and still finding our shape. At heart, this is a small constellation of poet friends drawn together by camaraderie, conversation, and the strange, steady nourishment that comes from exchanging word worlds and wandering through the digressions that surround them. What are you reading? How did that poem land in your body? What are your lyrical obsessions? Which journals are you sending your work into? Which of your darlings might need to be let go? We are all so interested in the harder questions: how to write inside a world shaped by violence, exclusion, and erasure, how to witness without preaching, how to speak plainly when plain speech feels necessary, how to document what's burning while still keeping a heart that can find refuge in imagined worlds, distant skies, and silent rooms. Here we dare to be individual, we dare to be anonymous, we dare sometimes to join ourselves into larger bodies and shared movements. This is a curated space, but not a closed one. Ideas, questions, and invitations are welcome. We're committed to creating a place where backgrounds, pronouns, and orientations are respected, where difference isn't just tolerated, but part of the architecture. Our readings are varied and informal, with no fixed schedule yet. Our smaller gatherings often become workshops or sharings of finished work, and we're slowly opening toward larger workshop groups for anyone drawn to these kinds of sewing circles where poems are made, unmade, and made again in good company. And now, after that slightly overlong introduction, I'd like to thank Aaron so much for being here and so much for being our first. and I'd like to turn it over now to Virginia Chase Sutton for the proper introduction.
Thank you very much, Matt Jasper. Excuse me, I'm really throaty. I met Aaron Smith when we were both scholarship residents at Vermont Studio Center, a lovely little artist residency where we both washed tables and dishes and cut up fruit and vegetables as part of our stay, tasks we both detested. We met over discussion of the poet and writer Mark Doty. Aaron was a fan and delighted to know I had worked with Mark extensively while getting my MFA at Vermont College. An MFA student at Pitt, Aaron knew of Mark's work and could practically recite pieces by heart, which impressed me. I had a rental car, and we would drive into Montpelier to go to the famous bookstore Bear Pond Books to browse, but to be honest, there was a great deal of shopping. We bought many, many books. We drove in another day just to see if there was anything new at the bookstore. There was, and to stroll the city of Montpelier. Later, we planned to meet again at AWP in Albany. I had a task that he wanted in on, picking up the late, great poet Minnie Bruce Pratt at the train station. We were both fans and nearly silent, so great was her presence, and she was gracious and kind. Aaron and I attended the conference and shared a hotel room. It was great fun to have a roommate like Aaron, the funniest person I have ever met. Talking for hours, staying up until dawn, night after night, we had such a goofy good time. Later, we talked on the phone for hours, serious words about poetry and silliest words about our least favorite poets, though we were fans of so many. I saw Aaron once when he moved to Boston, but I didn't travel to AWP anymore. We relied on marathon phone calls. I live in Arizona and he's on the East Coast. Gradually, we lost touch. I did keep up with his work, gorgeous, harrowing, wickedly funny. His first book won a big prize, the Agnes Lynch Starrett Poetry Prize from the University of Pittsburgh. He has gone on to have 5 more books published with Pitt and a 6th, a collaborative work with Maureen Seaton. He teaches poetry in Boston. Aaron and James Hall have a popular podcast with over 200 shows. It is funny, serious, educational, and at times salty, which makes it so interesting. It's called Breaking Form, a poetry and culture broadcast, and I highly recommend it. Aaron Smith is a gifted, very prolific. His presentation tonight will showcase a highly talented poet writing at the height of his work with honest, humorous, passionate, and more accolades than I can showcase here. Marmoset Poetry is proud to introduce writer, poet, professor, and more, Aaron Smith.
Oh, Virginia, thank you for such a beautiful introduction. And
Oh, you're so welcome.
I remember it was Bethlehem in Broad Daylight was in the store, and I think you bought it for me because I didn't have that one. And Virginia also said, and I agreed with, she didn't trust anyone who didn't buy books. Like we went and somebody rode with us and she didn't buy any. And we were like spending money we didn't have, and storing up poetry. And then I remember that is when Marie House What the Living Do came out. And I bought it in hardback, I overextended and I loaned it to someone there and she tore the cover and then like gave it back to me. And I was like, this hurts my heart. He's like, oh, whoops, I'm sorry. I'm like, that's a hardback book and you just tore it. And I still have it and it's signed by Marie Howe, but it's torn. So I always think of Vermont Studio Center that when I see the books, I guess maybe it's a nice little scar, to bring with me. So anyway, Virginia invited me to come to the group and I like that it's intimate because then maybe we can talk some too. I can read some poems. I thought I would just kind of read through some of my books, like pick some poems that I haven't read in a while. I feel like I haven't. I've been doing readings from the collaborative book Beautiful People that I wrote with the poet Maureen Seaton, and it's on one side, it's the book that Maureen and I wrote, and then you flip it over and it's the book that Denise Duhamel and Maureen wrote. So the publisher was really nice to do that. The thing with mine and Maureen's is we actually wrote back and forth to one another and we wrote our own poems, where a couple times we did line by line and we wrote a sestinas together, but basically we each have our own poems in this book. So I thought I'd start with a poem that I've never read before out loud. It is the only, I think, successful sestina that I've ever written. The Denise Duhamel had dared me, sort of. I was like, I have collected action figures of movie men. Like I have like a Daniel Craig doll, I have a Ryan Gosling doll, I have all these things. Like you should make them the end words of a sestina. So when I was writing with Maureen, who's a formalist, I was challenged, so I did it. So if you don't know, the sestina is where you have the same set of words that repeat at the end of the lines and they're in a certain order. And Google it because I won't be good at explaining it. So, and then the last stanza tries to combine, like bring all the words into it. So this is called Leading Men. Thelma and Louise and a blow dryer made Brad Pitt a star. The Notebook made Ryan Gosling a household name. Casino Royale is why Daniel Craig is Daniel Craig. London was where I first saw Chris Evans. But have you seen his chest in Captain America? Chris Hemsworth, that chest got my attention in Thor. Colin Farrell is the best in Fright Night. I love Colin Farrell the most, though in Seven Psychopaths. He and Brad Pitt should make a movie together. Chris Hemsworth and Ryan Gosling should too. Don't confuse Ryan Gosling with Ryan Reynolds. It's hard to believe Chris Evans did an ensemble piece, Knives Out with Daniel Craig. Captain America and James Bond in the same movie? Daniel Craig is a terrific actor, stage and screen. But when Colin Farrell cries in Bruges, he's hard to beat. Chris Evans is handsome, but he's not a great actor. Brad Pitt is good, but he probably got the Oscar for being shirtless. Ryan Gosling is great too. He's more serious than Chris Hemsworth. But do we really care if he's serious? Chris Hemsworth's glowing torso is almost as magical as Daniel Craig emerging from the ocean in a blue Speedo. Ryan Gosling's abs and crazy stupid love are crazy, stupid, and loved. Colin Farrell, if you like lean and cut, is right up there with Brad Pitt. Okay, Brad Pitt's body is better. Chris Evans is the most jock hot, and Chris Evans has a great cock, accidentally leaked online. Chris Hemsworth's dick isn't online, but I've seen Brad Pitt's in Playgirl, yum, and Daniel Craig's floats in the bathtub and Love is the Devil, slurp. Colin Farrell shows his thick dick in a sex tape, watch it. Ryan Gosling's cock is online too, someone snapped him peeing. Ryan Gosling cries well in Lars and the Real Girl. Chris Evans, his pecs make me weep. Again, Colin Farrell in In Bruges is one of my all-time fave cries. Chris Hemsworth doesn't cry, or maybe he does. Again, does it matter? Those arms. Daniel Craig does a great almost cry in flashbacks of a full bad movie. Brad Pitt cries a lot. In Fight Club, he's as hot as Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, Colin Farrell, and Ryan Gosling combined. Between Daniel Craig and Brad Pitt, I can't believe I'm saying this, Brad Pitt. So that was a lot of fun to do. I kind of thought even for like teaching, I think I wanted to tell my students like just because it's a formal poem doesn't mean that you can't bring yourself into it. And that was a lesson for me who's been writing for a very long time. I was like, wait a minute, I can bring my interest in. I think sometimes Sestina and it's like, oh, it has to be a certain thing, or I don't pick the good ending words. Like that was another thing for me. So, and then Maureen also, she was writing all these forms, and of course, I think, we all dabble in sonnets at some point, as writers. But then, again, writing to Maureen, I wrote this poem, sort of challenged me. It's a sonnet, and it's called Sissy, and it was actually a poem of the day, like maybe a couple of years ago. Um, and it's 14 lines as a sonnet, and the ending word of every single line is sissy. So I'll read that to you. This is, I guess, in my formalist stage, I haven't I've really done this. So, sissy. I can't remember my dad calling me a sissy, but he definitely told me not to be a sissy. I secretly, or not so secretly, liked all the sissy things. We had a hunting dog named Sissy. Really, Sissy. My father nicknamed my sister Sissy. Still, he says, "How Sissy?" and calls her Sissy when she goes home to visit him. Belinda, Sissy, is one of the toughest people I know. My sissy sister has kicked someone's ass, which isn't sissyish, I guess, though I want to redefine sissy into something fabulous, tough, tender, sissy tough. Drag queens are damn tough and sissies. I'm pretty fucking tough and a big, big sissy too, and kind, tough and kind and happy, a sissy. So that's from the book Beautiful People. One thing I love about that press is they're not interested in making money. It's part of Southern Methodist University that apparently has money coming out of their ass, and they're selling the book for cost. Like, I don't understand. And I was like, and they did some hardbacks. Like, I never thought I would have like a hardback, and they sell them for like $14. So I don't know why they, yeah, God bless them, right? For spending their $2 billion endowment, in a way that's like really kind to people. Um, so I'm going to move to my book primer. This book was banned. Richard Blanco invited me to read at the Gould Academy in Maine, and it was part of the Richard Blanco reading series. And my book had come out, and they promised to buy 450 copies to give to all their students. And I was going to go and talk to the students. And then a month before I was supposed to go, they said, "We're looking for you to visit, but we can't let the students read your book." And we went back and forth, and they literally, and finally we agreed that they would do a packet of poems. And I made him pay royalties on it just because I'm like, screw you. You're going to ban my book, and then you're going to teach them copyright infringement's okay, even though I don't care. You can Xerox my poems. But the book does deal with suicidal ideation. But I think I'm very responsible. I never talk about it's not like glorifying it. It is really trying to get to the bottom of something that my grandfather self-exited, my dad's first cousin did, mental health issues run in our family, and I wanted to write about them honestly. So when I went up there, though, I felt like they took away my opportunity to talk to the students and engage them with mental health, because I was prepared to really talk about that and talk about the ethics and talk about get help, like there's a way through it. And so I thought that was kind of a bummer of a missed time. And then students were coming up to me and like, "How much does the book cost?" And I'm like, "Well, how much money do you have?" They're like, $3. I'm like, "It costs $3." And then I was selling it on the side to students, so students know a lot more than we want to give them credit for. But this is called Still Life with Gun. And these poems do have ideation in them. So if it's something that's triggering to you, I want you to know. My friend James, who's here, we call it a care warning. I think it's more about a care warning and making a space that's comfortable. So, Still Life with Gun. When Dad worked midnights, Mom hid his pistol in the kitchen in a basket of plastic flowers. I can get to it, she said, before someone can get in the door. She kept it by the bed before almost shooting my father when he came home early without calling. We joked. Sleepwalking could have been her defense. But something changed after she saw her husband at gunpoint. Something flipped a safety switch in her head. After I go to bed, will you hide the steak knives that are on the counter? Afraid she would get up, stab us accidentally. An article she'd read claimed in a dream state the brain remembers where objects are placed. Years later, I asked why she thought the gun was safer. Wouldn't your mind know it was on the table? I don't know, she said. Maybe I thought the flowers would distract me. Nobody kills their whole family with daisies. So the mental health issues run down both sides of my family. And it's something that there was a lot of shame around, which I think we know. And, I still go through periods of shame regarding it and being on medicine, and which I'm absolutely 1,000% for. So, I don't know. So this book also ended a friendship. I mean, someone decided that they thought I did not have I wasn't allowed to write about this, and they stopped talking to me. And so there was a lot of weird things that went on with this book. But for me, I felt like it absolutely had to be written. And, I think there's a lot of misreading of it. There's nowhere in the book where I talk about, trying to harm myself. It was just being haunted by this ideation. And that's what I really was trying to get to the bottom of. And this is called Still Life with Antidepressants. The afternoon light lights the room in a smudged sheen, a foggy-eyed glow. The dogs dig at the couch, low growling at the mailman. I'm spelling words with pills spilled consolidating bottles. Yes, and try, and most of happy. Maybe I'll empty them all. A woman I don't know is having a drill into her skull. To get rid of the thing requires entering the brain. How to imagine a story that ends with that ending. I don't know how to live my life, but at least today I want to. And I remember literally spilling the pills on the counter, and then I started writing words with them. I don't know, I guess the writer is going to find a way to to turn everything um, into language. I'm going to read a couple poems that I never really read out loud either. So maybe you won't like them. Maybe I won't like them, but I've never read this poem out loud. It's the first one in the book and it's called Ruined. So, and it's in sections. So one, Ruined. I'd never been in a fight, but I knew I could take him. I punched Kenny Roth on the playground. My fist smashed the bone in his nose. A week before, he'd stayed at my house, tried to kiss me, touch my underwear. I wanted more like he did, but didn't know what that would mean about me. He said he was only joking. He said he wouldn't tell. Still, I slugged him, tried to break his jaw in front of his girlfriend. It had something to do with sin or the honor of men, which usually means it's about violence. I liked the way his lip opened under my fist. I liked what it felt like to be a man. Two, I know a guy who likes to throw cakes in the faces of his boyfriends. It turns him on to ruin a handsome man. When he talks to the guys, he sees crumbs in eyes, chocolate frosting across noses and chins, jumps them from the shower, keeps unwrapped Twinkies by his bed. He likes to see them naked, wiping their eyes, erections sometimes stiffer in the air. If they stay, he ends up pushing them away. Three, the first man bit hard on my lip, thrust harder with his hips. I know what I want for dessert. The more I struggled, the more he moaned. I'm being a good top. I have to break you in. Learn to take it, or you'll always be alone. Four, My father wants to take me outside and beat me for my smart ass mouth. He says, "You're just like my father." I say, "I'd kill myself to get away from you too." We both draw lines and cross them. We both are afraid of our rage. My mother tells us to shut our mouths. She won't have this fighting in her house. 5. When a friend was gay bashed in the South End, he said the world went quiet and he was cold, but he didn't think cold. He thought so much blood, so much snow. He said his life got flatter and everything went silent. He didn't think it would be so bad to die in the quiet. They asked him if he liked it rough. The last thing he heard was, "Have you had enough?" So that poem makes me uncomfortable too, as a person in the poem, and thinking about in a patriarchy, the violence of men, and be also being gay, being attracted to men and afraid of men simultaneously is also a very weird experience. I'm sure for anyone who dates men, it can be tricky sometimes. So, but then also I have this story about how wonderful men can be. And this is called After All These Years, You Know They Were Wrong About the Sadness of Men Who Love Men. It's Palm Springs, and you've slipped away from a day of swimming and drinking to lie for a minute with your eyes closed in the other room while the air conditioner moan groans outside the window. Your body chilled from sunburn and untouched for months. Startled from near sleep, you hear a crash of laughter, man laughter, the slapping of bare backs, hands smacking the skin of men drying by the pool, or making hamburgers in the kitchen, or solving a puzzle on the glass table in twilight. Does anybody need another drink? And laughter. The pizza's here. Can I have a cigarette? Pass the pretzels and your name. Has anyone seen Aaron? You don't say anything but listen to the man saying your name. Soon someone will be sent to look for you, and you'll pretend to be sleeping. Say you must have dozed off. You'll rejoin the party soon, but need another minute. You want to remember this. You've waited your whole life for them to miss you. And this is from my book Appetite. I have so many books where the men, like this one, the man has a pie in his face, another, the man's face is crossed out. I think I need to work on that in therapy. It's like my favorite art form, man with face crossed out. Maybe I should write that poem. Not sure, but I have an amazing boyfriend. So yes, he's wonderful, and I'm very lucky in that regard. I read this poem too. This one was in Ploughshares, and I remember Ploughshares was, I heard from the editor, it was Terrence Hayes edited, and they were like afraid to publish it. I don't know why everyone's like so afraid to stop. You know what I mean? I think this poem's funny. Um, Maybe you won't, but I do. Um, yeah, fat ass. The woman in the next cubicle, fat ass. The man on the train, fat ass. The director of the nonprofit where I work, though always dieting, fat ass and a bitch. Me on my fourth cookie, fat ass. My mom in her chair, fat ass. My dad in his chair reclining, fat ass. And my sister, though she'll never forgive me. Jeremy, Annie, Brian, Lois, Chip, Jan, Nancy, David Groff, and David Trinidad, all fat asses. My editor, fat ass. The employees of my publishing company, if I still have one, every single one of them, a fat ass. Louise Glick, Ted Kuzer, Charles Simic, fat ass, fat ass, fat ass. Robert Pinsky, Rita Dove, Billy Collins, fat ass, really, really fat ass. David Lehman, best American fat ass. Jesus, fat ass, the devil, fat ass, the fat ass Pope, and his extra big fat ass robe. So, I was like reclaiming the word, and everybody, there was a man on the train who like ran into me, and he was this little guy. And I remember I was so tired. I lived in New York City, and I'm like, watch it, fat ass, because he wasn't. I mean, this is also me like when I'm 30. And he was just stunned because, he'd never been called fat ass in his entire life, me, a yo-yo dieter. So I was like, I just thought, then it became funny. I'm like, I'm just going to write a poem and call everybody that. I'm just going to put everyone in it. So then when I went to the school that censored me, that banned my book, I read this poem and I put the administrators' names in it. So the students loved it. So that was my little rebellion. I'm definitely like sneaky like that, I'll do little things like that. So then my next book is the book of Daniel. And the book starts to deal with my mother's illness. My mother died of cancer in 2019, which is what the my most recent book, Stop Lying, is about. This one was actually the person whose friendship ended with my book Primer. I basically stepped away from them. They were really sort of a bully, a poetry bully. They were a friend, and I didn't realize sort of their negative energy. And I wrote this book, it almost like a battle cry for me. And I've never done this in my life. I don't usually talk about this. I wrote this book in 15 weeks. I'm a 6 year book writer. This poured out of me. It is a lot of sad, intense stuff, but it was the most joyful book to write. And I think it was because I was shattering that oppressive person on me. I was pushing it away. And I double spaced a lot intentionally because I felt like I needed the poems to breathe differently. It was a whole just different experience. So this is called I Pledge Allegiance to the Fag. As a gay person, I can say that word, believe me. And this book also does a lot of sort of borrowing text from other books and dropping it in. Some of the poems are titled after other books, and I just sort of write from them. So this one has a quote in it from Denise Duhamel and from Wanda Coleman. And then I use some language that you see on hookup apps. So I pledge allegiance to the fag. I pledge allegiance to the fag I've spent my whole life becoming. Not a gay man who grew up straight, the prom king and the quarterback, who fucked enough women to get by, who sucked a dick late in life. What a hero. Ricky Martin tries to tell me on a talk show what we can't let happen to gay people after he claimed his fame from the back of a closet. Give me choir fags, book fags, carb fags, going to hell fags, boys with makeup who play dress up and spend their whole lives paying for it. Mask for mask only. You should have a gym membership and use it. I like guys with muscles, just my preference. If they don't take guns from everyone, I'm getting one. I tell my therapist the day after the guy attacks me. It made me think of Denise Duhamel's David Lemieux, who was mistaken for a girl, died on a mattress thrown on the back of a pickup because the ambulance wouldn't come. My therapist. Would the world have been so upset about Rock Hudson had he not been handsome? Wanda Coleman. Honey, here you are with a toothpick when what's required is a meat cleaver. No more being peaceful. This queer has been tired his whole life. So that's one that definitely inhabits queer rage. And the rage that I feel right now in this country, like where do you put it, you know? So I think it's important to write poems with rage in them. Like I think we need that, and I think not violence per se, you know, rage where we're expressing ourselves and we're speaking out and doing that kind of work. This one I think's funny. This one's also from the book. It's called Get Thee to a Nunnery, borrowing a line from Shakespeare. And it's just sort of a wild ride. COVID happened the night when this book came out, and I didn't get a read from it. And then my mom died, and I was scheduled to give a reading, and I didn't want to do it. It was like a week after. And my sister's like, just go do it. You're going to sit at home and you're just going to be sad. You might as well go and be in public and be a part of something. It's so weird because you think, oh, I feel like I used to be judgmental of people in grief. Like, oh, if my mom died, I would be home for 3 months. You don't know who people are, you know, in grief. So always remember that people cope the way they cope. That it was a real lesson for me and like understanding. But all that to say, I was reading this poem and I was laughing in my head of all the shit that was coming out of my mouth. So hang on. And what I tell my, when I'm reading, I'm like, hey, you only have to sit with it for a minute and a half. It's always swirling in this head. All right. So hopefully you'll think it's a wild ride. So get thee to a nunnery. When the woman asks the woman behind the counter if they have the current issue of People, she says, I think all we have is the beautiful issue. And the woman says, I want regular people. And before I can help myself, I'm blurting, the beautiful people is the regular people. It still has articles. I saw it on Wendy Williams. I hate how helpful I am even when not asked, how I need flight attendants to like me. So I watch their safety presentations, though I know about oxygen masks and how to float after a crash, Or I'm extra nice to the waiter, assuring him everything's fine when everyone's talking, so I'll be his favorite. The woman looks at me with a face that says weirdo or faggot, and in either case, she's right. Her husband is waiting outside looking at his watch, not watching his wife interact with the weirdo faggot in the magazine store at the airport. His muscle gut and ball bat forearms make me swell in my belly, the way I swell when I listen to Fisher Spooner's Sir. I wish her husband was a faggot, and we could have weirdo faggot sex in the Terminal F bathroom where men aren't washing their hands. I have a friend who won't leave the house for a hand job. It's oral or anal, or he stays home. Okay, all of my friends stay home unless it's oral or anal. If I'm giving up my parking space, I'm at least getting fingered. My therapist says I have agoraphobic tendencies. I ask him if it's strange that I'm a man who dates men and am afraid of men. He says it's only strange if I think it's strange. And I say, wow, in my best fuck you voice. That's a thinker. Then somehow we're talking about Nicole Kidman and Big Little Lies and the line between abuse and lust. I say something like, is all lust abuse and is sex by its very nature violent? He says the scenes where Nicole stands up, sits down, are the best he's seen depicting therapy. My shrink's my longest intimate relationship. I just nod when he compares my life to a line in Hamlet because I haven't read it in years. He's smarter than me and I don't want to remind him. But I have seen girls, so I know what he means about the guy and girl who masturbate together on the couch without touching, proving sex doesn't have to mean fucking and can be what I need it to be and pleasurable, making my previous statements wrong. Fisher Spooner's limited edition vinyl has a big, thick cock we'd all leave the house for on the cover. Pink is on the cover of People, beautiful and happy. I love how Casey Spooner wears women's clothes. I should mind my own business when I fly. So that is the book goes a lot of wild places, but I'll read from here and then I'll move to the one more about my mother's death. This one kind of starts bridging that. This is called My Parents' 50th Wedding Anniversary. I'm flying home for a party, crying and snotting, sitting by a guy who's watching baseball on an iPad. He looks angry the way men are angry. I imagine my mom before my sister and me, before the church and pastor and everyone coming to see her in a simple new dress. I see her in a blue convertible, driving through town, buying flowers, getting ready to marry my father sooner than she'd expected. He was drafted, and she wanted to be married a little while in case something happened. She told me that once after they'd argued, and he threatened to leave, and she threatened to leave, and nobody left, and I wonder if someone should have. When I first heard the diagnosis, the rarest form of a rare cancer, I worried every day for my mother. She cooked in schools and got burns on her arms when we were children, studied at night to become a teacher's aide. She dragged us to church, though we hated it, thought it would make us good people. Her kids moved away and never had kids because we didn't want any. Her husband mostly ignores her, loves her in his way, distant and honest. Right now, she's doing okay, and I only cry sometimes when I see old photos or a mother being kind to her child at Target. And then I'm going to dip in to a couple here, and then I'm going to read like one from my very first book and then one new one, and then I'll stop talking at you. So this is the most recent one. It's called Stop Lying. Um, when my mom died, she died in the room where her father had died and the room where my father had proposed to her. And it was my grandparents' house. So when we got locked down, I sat in that room and I wrote this book over the year because I didn't want memory to change it. Because I knew if I waited too long to write about it, memory would revise what actually happened. And I wanted to make sure that I had written what actually happened um, when she died. So this one is a hard one. I started looking down the page when I was writing, and I would get, Coleridge says the best words in the best order. And I would like, but oh my God, all we do is waste language with words like like conjunctions and articles, the and an and a. And I was like, we're just wasting language, like we try to be original, but we all have to use like these fucking words, and it made me feel crazy. So I started trying to write poems, seeing what I could get rid of and still have the essentialness of the poem come through. So this is Mom in Casket I picked out. Mom in casket I picked out, wearing shirt she bought when we shopped at mall. Not time she fainted, but time before. Undertaker cut shirt up back, glued eyes shut, ripped necklace from neck. Dad wanted back. Goodbye, Mom, I said, did the best I could. Preacher wouldn't take hand off my back. Tried not to piss off Dad at lunch. His old friends wanted photos. A mile away, my mother's being buried in dirt. Said to James, Wayne, Tommy, Joel, and these motherfuckers want pictures. Smiled while dirty beard loser cousin made rabbit ears behind someone's head. Camera flash, one more flash, another flash. The lipstick they put on you, Mom, was pink you'd never wear. Everyone, almost everyone, liked it. So for me, it was like, how can I find a language of grief? What does that mean? To find, the language of grief. Um, this one's called Holiday. Once in my life, I rubbed a bird's head while it died. It hit a window and I sat with it and I petted its head until it died. And it was a profound experience. And then my helping my mom die was the other one. And it seems, I know people are like, I can't believe you compare that. But I think if you've been around loss, you know that these things run very close, I think, to each other, the experiences of a little life or a large life. But this is called Holiday. During the last days when we were waiting for her to stop being her, it felt like a holiday, a thrill in the air. Rarely seen relatives and friends coming to visit, everyone taking turns lying beside her, smelling her hair, telling her she did everything right, was a good person and mom. When the first faint rattle formed in her throat, my sister and I were kids again, pointing out to our father the new thing we'd observed, wanting his approval for having noticed first. I worried I was looking forward to it when the nurse said, we're close. I smiled, you can go, Mom, I said. Then her breaths got big again, as if she were coming back, though I knew she wasn't, and I got tired, wondered how long I could kneel beside her before my knees gave out, before her body stopped needing to be reminded of itself. So if you've helped someone die, I think you know that there is all of these feelings and life's moving forward, but you're thinking about all these other things, but then this thing's happening in front of you, and you're dealing with what that means for it to happen, but not believing it's happening. And um, I don't know. It was, I think, one of the most important things that I ever did in my life um, was helping my mother die when she was going. And I had a rough childhood as far as fundamentalist Christians. Being a gay, obviously, in a fundamentalist Christian household in West Virginia was not easy at all. And I've spent my life writing about it, I think. And shortly before my mother died, I was living in West Virginia, and this happened. This happened before she died. After my mother apologized for my childhood, we went to brunch. I know we both had coffee and maybe the breakfast bar. It was late enough that we could have had lunch and a Diet Coke. Maybe I had a sandwich and iced tea. We pretended like we always had, didn't think back to what was said before we ended up in the kitchen of my apartment. What she said about how God could save me, what I said about how he didn't. My rage that she wasn't crying, though I was, because she thought she was right, and I knew she wasn't, and how she stood behind the old beliefs because listening would have meant undoing what her whole life she had done and I had undone in the name of Jesus. But there was a shift when we left the living room for different rooms, after what we did say and what we almost said, both wounding and unwounding in tandem. Then her behind me, a break, an opening so slight in the quiet, her words, and me trying to comfort, to make her feel better, unable to accept what I'd always wanted my whole life and just received. But I didn't know an apology could feel like sadness, and forgiveness its own kind of grief, a new way for us to be distant. After we got the check, figured out tip, driving back to my place. Did I really tell you to get AIDS and die? Yes, I said, and that if I were gay, you'd put me on a bus and never want to see me again. Then silence, that place we always return to, but somehow this time new. There are some beautiful houses in this town, she said. I wish I could learn more about them. So that was the closest that we got in my life with my mom, I think, to a resolution. I did an interview on the show Poetry Off the Shelf, Poetry Foundation. We talk more about it, but I'm going to read this one poem that two people have brought up, and I don't know, people seem to think it says more about the book than I see, but I'll read it and then I'll read something from my first book and one last poem. So this is called The Only Thing. On my way home from the mall, I stopped, sorry. On my way home from the mall, I want to stop at the cemetery to tell mom what I bought. Blue sneakers with orange trim in Hollywood Park, a memoir by a singer she never heard of. I got a fast food hamburger and ate it in the car. I never told my mother I wrote books, and as far as I know, she never saw one. She Googled me once and found an essay I wrote about being gay. She called my sister and cried, begged her to ask me to take it down. I didn't, and we pretended it never happened. She loved me without looking at me as best she could, and it was enough in the end, the only thing after the broken years I wanted. Before they took her body from the house, I told my sister she knows all the answers now. Maybe I should be ashamed, but I'm not. I'm glad we kept lying so late in our lives that I was able to help her die. What we never said is forever now, and small in comparison to the honest place we walked. So, and then I'll read this one. I'll read one from the first book, and then I'll read a brand new poem that it's the most recent one that I wrote. This poem has haunted me for years. I was young and in my 20s and I was wandering around Boston and I wanted to fall in love and I was feeling all these emotions. And this is a poem still people ask me about. Still people like had a real estate agent email me and ask if they could put it on their website for Boston. I don't know what it is. I can't afford to live in Boston, but I guess they think somebody might read my poem who can afford it. So Boston. I've been meaning to tell you how the sky is pink here sometimes, like the roof of a mouth that's about to chomp down on the crooked steel teeth of the city. I remember the desperate things we did, and that I stumbled down sidewalks listening to the buzz of street lamps at dusk and the crush of leaves on the pavement. Without you here, I'm viciously lonely, and I can't remember the last time I felt holy, the last time I offered myself a sanctuary. I watched two men press hard into each other, their bodies caught in the club's bass drum swell, and I couldn't remember when I knew I'd never be beautiful. But it must have been quick and subtle, the way the Holy Ghost can pass in and out of a room. I want so desperately to be finished with desire, the rushing wind, the still small voice. And this is my last one. Thank you all so much for having me. I love this group. It's so nice. And I'm sure I'm looking down a lot. I haven't read in a while, so I feel like I'm not as like in tune, with reading my poems. So this one's called The New Regime. We're living in a dictatorship, I tell him in the middle of making love. Not because I'm not with him, but because I'm in two places at once. The way you can sit in a meeting and stand on the mound of your first t-ball game, or watch your mother's casket lower into the ground while the nurse takes your blood. He kisses me deep to quiet me, positions himself behind. There's a place I've never been where you can get on all fours and have one limb in four states at the same time. He pulls me up, my back against his chest, pushes his chin into my shoulder, and my brain turns off like a television. There are countries where we'd be thrown off buildings for the way our bodies are locked behind the blinds we pulled so the neighbor's kid can't see. We come hard and loud, and after we wipe off, I feel the way you feel after friends leave your party, relieved and overwhelmed in the silence. We drift towards sleep. It all begins, I don't say, with a consolidation of power. Thank you.
Wow, that was amazing, devastating, just incredible work, Aaron. And thank you. We're so lucky to have the opportunity to hear so much of your work in one
Yep.
sitting. And just, wow, I just appreciate your talent and where you go with these poems. Um, so I would like to open this up. Unlike my other series that I put the questions in the chat and moderated, I'd like to open up for questions from people. Just unmute and shout them out. And
Of
Aaron, thank you for being so gracious to answer them.
course.
Erin, I thought everything that you read was amazing, and I'm completely floored by your ability to write about everything: grief, anger, humor, the good, the bad, the ugly of life, and self-identity, and just freaking everything. I don't know how you do that, honestly. My question is, you write very truthful things. Has that become a problem for you with relatives reading your work or friends reading your work or people you've been in relationships hearing your work? Sort of experiencing a little bit of that myself, and I'm just curious if you've run into that.
Yeah, I mean, I lied to my parents and didn't tell them. I was like, it's weird, it's like there's always these narratives in culture where people are like, oh, you have to do this and this. Like you're going to sit down with your family and come out, they're going to meet your partner, Billy, and you're all going to be happy. And, everyone doesn't get that story. Um, there's a writer, Denise Duhamel, actually, who I was on the other side of the book, and she first wrote a poem called Things I Could Never Tell My Mother. And it was a list of all the things that she'd done that would upset her mother. So then I imitated that in my first book, and I have a poem called Things I Could Never Tell My Mother. And I asked Denise after we got to know each other, I was like, did you ever show that to your parents? She's like, no. She's like, it wasn't for them. It was literally called Things I Could Never Tell My Mother. And around that time, as Virginia said, I got to know Mark Doty a little bit. He stopped me. It was in Back Bay. I remember he stopped me in Back Bay. We were walking with two other friends. And he said, you don't owe your parents your work. Like, he's like, you don't owe that to them. Like, that's yours. And it was a relief. And I remember I started writing before internet culture. I'm in my 50s. So I feel a lot for my students, and I worry because I can't imagine the earliest stuff that I was saying if I was afraid it would be completely, electronically transferred all over the world. I mean, it really would be terrifying. Like, who would I have become a poet? Who would I have been um, if everything I said was immediately put into the world? So I tell my students to protect themselves and protect their work, keep it in a small, safe space like this. I've said too, anyone who's made fun of the notion of a safe space has never needed one. So, protect that. And another, these are not, well, there's not a simple answer for it. Yes, I've had problems. My sister has witnessed my work and been amazing. And we've sat and cried together because she was like, I was there when that happened. And then she's writing sort of a novel version of our lives. And every time I'm in a workshop where she's there, I cry. I mean, it's emotional both ways. But I had a huge fight. One day, the day I found out I got in Best American Poetry, like 2013, I also had the worst fight with my father. I mean, we were screaming at each other. It was awful. I have a poem about it in Primer,
Mhm.
and we were saying just horrible things to each other. And then the next day, I had to give a reading for an MFA program, and they asked me a very similar question to what you asked me just now. And my answer then was, I realized that my father was going to be an asshole whether or not I wrote my poems. The only person who would have suffered from me not writing my poems would have been me. And that was how I moved forward. But I don't believe you have to go announce it to everybody. I think that you write and you make art. But I did make a commitment to myself. If it comes down to it, I will stand by my poems. Like, I did have that. Like, that was the truth. That was the core. And I was willing to burn everything down for it. But it didn't mean I struck the match and threw it. If that helps. I know it's a lot of answer.
That's really helpful. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, I used to not know what to say, and that fight was a real eye opener for me. Yeah.
This is not a question, but I just wanted to say that your poems about grieving and dying are so spot on. I was a hospice chaplain for a while and a bereavement counselor. And um, whenever we had patients who were angry, they sent me, go. That's like my superpower is
Yeah.
people who are angry, apparently. And so they would like it didn't he need to be my chair, they would send me. And so I'm really well versed in the anger and the complexity and I also remember a conversation with my mother when I was 30, who I'm a Unitarian, so she said I would go to hell. Well, she didn't say that. She said that I wouldn't, she was worried for my soul. That's what she said. But
Mhm, mhm.
we don't talk, Methodists don't talk about hell.
I went to a Methodist college. I know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
don't talk about hell. So I just really found I just found everything so spot on and real. And I appreciate the title too, Stop Lying. And my request is that all these books people are referencing, maybe you could put them in the chat in case
Okay.
we can look them up later. So, but
And
it's
I would
easy.
be happy
Yeah.
to share with Virginia anything that comes up. I could send her my books or any book that came up, um, talking. I wanted, there's a little tiny poem that actually, that's why I'm looking down. I'm not listening to you. I was trying to find something. It's the teacher in me who's like listening, but also, multitasking. And if I can find it real quick, I can't remember the title of it, but I think that it goes a little bit with what you just said about your mother. Saying that you would go to hell. Let me
No,
see.
she didn't, though. She didn't. She just said she was worried about my soul. Let me just. And she
Yeah,
also
no,
conveniently forgot all the things she had said to me growing up. So I was like, you're
this
talking
is
my
what I
language.
wrote, sort of dealing with that. It's called Afterlife, and the whole poem is sometimes the hardest part is wondering if my mother died, believing I would go to hell. Like that's the
Yeah.
poem in its entirety. And it was like she didn't say it, but there was a part of me that wanted to give her that assurance.
Yeah.
But I also was so careful not to harm her faith when she needed it the most.
Right.
So I really tried to like honor that, be myself, but honor that. So, when somebody has faith that's gotten them through, God, the
Absolutely.
last thing I'd want to do is interrupt that. What would that would be about me and not her. But it was the most profound thing. And the hospice nurse, I remember hugging her because she was so perfect and so amazing. And it was just I never it's something I didn't know I knew how to do. And then I look back and think it's the most important thing that I've ever done. So thank you for doing that kind of work. Like someone who has been on the receiving end of it, it's just there are no words. So thank you.
Well, thanks for, was that in Stop Lying, the one
Yeah,
with all
stop
the,
lying. Yeah, that's
okay.
the one that has if you were in the same room, I would just give it to you. Um it's this
Oh,
is
but
the
I'm
one
only in New Hampshire. I'll be right
with
over.
that far. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
tax-free land. I'll come shopping. But this one is I really think like what you're saying, hopefully all of the different angles of grief and the feelings go all the way through this book. Like it's like I
Yeah.
hope that I'm hitting what it means to be personally. There's also like relationship stuff happening, but it was hard book to put in order because it was like, I always say this death, 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 like a funny poem, death, death. You know what I mean? It was like trying to find the order of it. And the stages of grief are a myth in the sense that they go in
Right.
order. You know what I mean? It's like anger, denial, bargaining, anger again. You know what I mean? They all run like they're a tide. So it was kind of a myth. So thank you. It was just important to me. Like I was even like, if nobody reads that book, I don't care. Like, I'm sure my publisher would care, but I just had to write it. I just had to have a document of this experience because it was so profoundly important. And actually now when I have friends who lose someone close to them, if they're writers and we're in the right space, I'm like, write about it now if you're capable, because memory will change it. Like you will remember it differently, document it as soon as you can, if you're able to, and if it's something you think you want to write about.
Yeah. That's really great advice, actually.
Aaron, does it ever have anything that you thought you wanted to write about, but when you started to, you had a change of heart?
Um, I will write anything that I feel like I need to write. But I think there's also times where it's like that's it doesn't feel like it's my story to tell. So like writing a poem, I think is different than publishing it. So, I mean, I'll pretty much publish a lot if I think it's good. Like I'm sort of a stinker like that. I'm sort of like, oh well, it's like the Anne Lamott, if you wanted me to say nicer things about you, then you should have been nicer to me. That's like one of her sayings. But there was one poem that I mean, the poem didn't show up, but it was about something bad that I know happened to another family member. And I was honestly trying to work out what happened. And I wrote it and it came back and it didn't feel like I didn't think the poem was working. But then I'm like, am I interested in telling this or am I just trying to figure it out? And I think it became less art and more process. And it kind of, so I think the poem collapses more than I change my mind. I think the poem collapses. So that's more information. I'll really write anywhere. Like I really do follow that. Um, and if it's a good poem, I'll usually publish it because I feel like I don't know, it's a poem and we do exaggerate. I mean, the shirt could have been red instead of blue. I mean, I'm also compressing time and I'm making, to get at truth, So yeah, I definitely want it to be true, but we all know emotionally true, and the complexities of that. But getting the emotion out. But I think more than me changing my mind, that the poem changes its mind. Like I follow the poem. I tell my students like a good idea will get in the way of your poem. Like quit trying to write the poem that you want it to be. It's like having a kid and then getting mad when it wants to be the child wants to be when they want to be who they want to be. It's like the poem. My students like, no, I'm writing about this. I'm like, that's not what the poem's about. Like we don't see that. Follow that. And I think that's where it is. But for me, the poem collapsed more than I would not write something. Do you find you back out, Timothy? Like, do you find that you change your mind or you go forward?
Depends on the poem.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if I'm meddling around and I'm kind of like, I'm just doing the same old shit,
Yeah.
then it's the same old shit. But like if it's a unique take or unique metaphor or just something, I mean, of course nothing is unique, but
Mhm.
just something that strikes me. I mean, for me in general, poems have to strike me. They strike me as poems, and if they don't strike me, then I'm just trying to like create something out of nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you have to follow that impulse and it has to, it's like the making happens. The poem knows more than we do. And it's like following it. So, I think I'll always write poems about my mother. Even that last poem, the new one, I still reference my mother's casket. You know what I mean? It's like no matter what, it's going to come back. So I think different perspectives, or, there are definitely times, working on poems individually, then you start putting a book together and you realize you have three poems that are doing the same work. And then I think you have to pick the best one. And that's the Kill Your Darlings. Even though I
Yeah.
always say take your darlings, set them in another room and let them watch TV until you need them again. Because I've recycled
Hmm.
stuff. You know what I mean? Don't throw away anything. It may not belong in that poem, but keep it. Yeah, then we don't have to have the kill metaphor either. We could just
Put
be
them in
like,
timeout.
yeah, time out or let him watch a
Hmm.
DVD, let him grow, let him think, let him evolve. So, are there questions in the chat too? I'm not watching that.
No, there are not.
Okay.
I have another question though.
Yeah.
Please. Yeah.
Um, so you write short poems better than pretty much anyone.
Oh,
I'm
thank you.
I'm just gonna say that. I'm actually gonna read two of them and then ask my question.
Okay.
Poetry can save the world, and I knew this bitch didn't live in the same world as me. That's the whole poem. I love it. And then Tumor Moon, metastasized light spreading into the room where my mother sleeps, chemo, sky, and curable night. They're so different and both so powerful and in so few words. Were you always good at that, or is that something you had to work on?
Oh, thank you. It's in the revision. I feel like it's in like really paying attention to what the essential is. And then I think it's after that, it's putting if I put them in books, it's putting them together. You have to think about, what works and what doesn't. Like I have another one, it's like trigger warning, if someone pulls a gun, run. Like that was the entire poem. In the book of Daniel, I was thinking we were getting where it was like, we need a trigger warning for like a needle. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, calm down. You know what I mean? Yeah, like calm down. Like, I believe in them. I believe in care warnings, but there's a point where it's like we have to be able to breathe. I saw one the other day that was like accidental cannibalism. And I'm like, well, wouldn't cannibalism itself be the trigger? Like accidental? Like that somebody fed me a human hamburger? I don't know. So, um, but I do, it's like I love thinking about arrangement and form. So when I look at those little poems, I put a lot of thought into sort of how they're arranged. Some of them get longer and I just pare them back. I'm like, what really is the essential? It sounds so woo-woo, but you're all writers. It's listening to the poems. Like, what's it want to be? I've had students write long, long, long poems, and I'm like, it's these three lines. And sometimes I think more, I sometimes it's like when Robert Creeley died, remember Virginia, he was at Vermont Studio Center with us. Someone said the only problem with his poems is they weren't short enough. Like they were basically like they wish he wasn't writing, which kind of cracked me up. But I sometimes I do wish people would write shorter poems. Sometimes like the poem's finished, like the old workshop notion of it like starts 4 lines down and ends 5 lines before. It's true a lot. So I do wish, I think there are more short poems out there in the world than people know. They just won't shut up. But I do think I will say
That's
my
great.
family's mouthy. My family goes back and forth. We jab at each other. We did learn how to be quick and on our feet. So I definitely think that sort of way of goes into the poems. But again, revision, like what's the poem really doing? Like honestly, be as honest with yourself as you can. What's the poem doing? So I think that's probably what it is. But I love a short poem. What's the famous A.R. Ammons? Like it's like their sex life. It's like one failure on top of another, and it's like 2 lines, and it's like literally, I'm sure I'm misquoting it, but it's close, and Edo Chester has a great one, like Monroeville, Pennsylvania, and it's like someone on the street yelled, "Hey, asshole," and everyone turned around. Like I love those little poems that do that much work, that open up that kind of space. So um I believe it's Andrea Gibson. Um I'm trying to think. She writes these little tiny, tiny poems. James, you're here. Who writes the little tiny poems that we love? James may have stepped away.
No,
No, I was
Andrea's
trying
tend
to.
to be longer. Go ahead,
Who
James.
is who, James?
Not Andrea Gibson. I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, she just writes these little tiny, and her books are just full of these tiny, tiny, beautiful poems. And it's so hard to, yeah, Andrea Gibson's the poet that unfortunately passed away. This is I can't remember. James will look. Anyone else have a question?
All right.
Andrea Cohen.
Andrea
Andrea
Cohen.
Cohen.
That's it. Yeah, Massachusetts. I mean, my goodness,
Nice.
those poems are stunning. These little tiny nuggets of just explosive. They're just these little things and they just make the world explode. So I think they're terrific. Thank you, James.
All right. Last chance for questions. And I believe we're going to do an open mic if people are interested in that. But
And
last
James
chance.
put the link in the bio for the Andrea Cohen book.
And where do we find your books besides the obvious places?
Yeah, they're everywhere. I mean, it's funny. The Quarter Square Books is in my school, and they don't carry my books, which cracks me up. Like Boston, Massachusetts has never. I've been here since 2013, and they've never included me like in any sort of Boston. But I'm also a recluse too. I don't like to do things. So it's funny. So everywhere, yeah, you can go straight to the publisher. You can use any of the bookshops that are distributed. University of Pittsburgh Press, I've been fortunate, has done all of them. You can go to Southern Methodist University, Southern Methodist University, Bridwell Press. They actually have this is how much they don't care about making money. They publish the book in paperback, they publish it in hardback, and they put it online in its entirety for free. So they have money, right? Can you imagine having that kind of money? So I love having the object, but if you can't get it, you can go to their website and you can Bridwell Press and you can read the entire book there. So I kind of love what they're doing. And James just put, thank you, James, for being my publicist. It's put my page for my books at Pitt. So you can go directly through them, which the publisher gets more. Of course, they're on Amazon. Like I know people don't like it, but people use it. So it's there. It's in bookshop.org, Barnes and Noble. Like you can pretty much get it anywhere. And I'm sure they're discount ones too. I'm sure you can find them. But it's always that extra shipping. You know what I mean? Like they act like they're selling your book cheaper, but then it's like the shipping costs just as much. So
I
there's
have two
tricks.
really quick questions.
Sure.
I noticed the art on your wall, kind of
Mhm.
an art fanatic. I just wondered who the artists are or
Oh
artist.
God, I won't be able to remember all their names. I could find them
The
in some.
orange one.
The
Oh,
orange one is gigantic. It's so heavy, and I didn't realize it. And it's an artist from London, and I can't remember his name, but I could find it. I'm so sorry. I'm terrible. Like I even told my boyfriend, I said I need to go through and write them all down. The little ones on top are actually the cover of Beautiful People, and that's an artist named
ah,
Joshua Ben Moore, and he's my favorite. I have several of his. That guy in the back, the Pink Boys, that's a Canadian artist. And then if you can see over here, that's
ooh.
an artist print from Alex Gross, I believe. And yeah, Josh is amazing and he's learning how amazing he is. So his paintings are getting where I can't afford them. Like, find the artist before they have a lot of confidence in themselves and buy their work and then encourage them. So now I can't afford Joshua's work, but I can look those up for you. I'm so sorry. I should know those.
No, that's
I
good.
have all their certificate of authenticities like upstairs in a cabinet, like I have everything. And then I own the cover of Stop Lying. Like I own that painting with the rabbits.
Wow.
And it's in the other room. But I'm also an art fanatic as well. So I own the cover of Primer. It's a little one that it was 11 by 14. She sold it to me for almost nothing. And now she has like over 500,000 followers on Instagram, and I'm sure I could never. Her name's Ellie Smallwood. So yeah, again, a man with his face blurred it out, but I love that cover.
Your work is new to me, but before you read, I looked at your art and I was prepared for what was coming.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
good, good. I love
And
it.
then my
Yeah,
other question, really small question, was Dennis Brutus at Pittsburgh? You were at Pittsburgh?
that
Or
name is familiar to me, but I've not been
okay.
someone. I don't know. Were they a teacher or student? Did they get an
Would have
MFA?
been a teacher. Would have been a teacher for
Not
sure.
that I remember.
But
Yeah.
I don't know about the timing. So okay, thanks.
Okay.
It was such a great reading.
Oh,
So
thank you
great
so
to
much,
see
and
your
thanks for
work.
your
Yeah.
comments. I appreciate it.
Uh, Amazing reading. Since you mentioned younger, less confident artists, I was thinking w when you were first starting out, were you less confident or like more brash or more assured of yourself? And then I was wondering how that collided with having not a whole lot of approval for yourself and your family. Uh,
It wasn't easy. I mean, I knew what I was drawn to, and then, I was shaking off years of religion and I feel like I'm always still shaking off shame, even at 50, even therapied and medicated and all the things I've done in my life. I think it was almost like the battle cry. I had a teacher then who really supported me and pushed me, and University of Pittsburgh, where I went, actually it's still an amazing literary community. And there were so many people taking chances, and we were sort of like anyone who was in graduate school in the late 90s, there was like this battle between like language poetry,
mhm.
like the Iowa Writer Workshop versus the personal narrative, and you had to pick a camp, and
Yeah.
I was in the personal narrative. So there was a little bit of rebellion in the
That's
form,
the right camp.
Wait, but
Yeah.
in the Iowa Writers Workshop in the late 90s, that both camps existed. It was like Marvin Bell versus Jory Graham, and then James Galvin was in the middle.
In the
But
middle, yeah.
yeah,
So it's
it
and
was crazy, but everyone liked Charles Simic.
yeah, I know what you mean. He was New Hampshire too. I know that he
Yeah.
was a New Hampshire
Mhm.
poet. Um, but it was strange. So, but I also felt like this sort of like I had the young coming out energy. I was coming up, my generation was right. right under the huge AIDS crisis. Like we were, we knew enough, some stuff then to save our lives, but we didn't have prep and we also had a lot of fear. So I think there was also something very political that at that time for me too. I was coming out, but I also felt like a little radical and like I wanted to speak. But yeah, I mean, it absolutely made me nervous. I mean, I used to write poems to make myself feel sick to my stomach because I just kept pushing myself into weird spaces. I've been dabbling with prose lately, and I did tell a friend, I'm like, I don't have to wound myself to make prose, but I don't want you to think that I'm always hurting myself. I'm not. It's just poetry, such an intense space for me, and it means so much to me that I kind of love making everything up sometimes because I've just been drawn to the personal narrative. So no, it's made me nervous. I have read poems in public. I've had people walk out. I've been nervous. I've not wanted to read things, but I'm like, well, screw it. I tell James, I'm like, I don't know if I want to read sex poems anymore. Then I read you some sex poems. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's just like I'm the person who says too much. I'm always the person who overshares at a party, then goes home and worries if they should have overshared. It's like that thing. So it's a little bit part of my personality too. But if you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do it. Like today, I recorded a video that just says "fuck you." I was so mad at something at school. I'm like, I'm fuck that person for not, and fuck that So I'm
That's
stubborn. Like I'll die on stupid hills. Like my sister's like, that hill you want to die on? I'm like, fine, I'll die on this one. I don't care. It's a tiny hill, but I'll still die on it. Like
yeah.
I'm that person too. So maybe it's a little bit in the personality. But yeah, I love the work that I mean, Sharon Olds was huge for me. People who just uncovered like you grow up feeling not normal, and that's such a weird word,
Hmm.
but it's true. And then you go out and you see all these wonderful speakers and thinkers and trash talkers and rebels, and you're like, oh my God, like this, my brain's working okay. I've been lied to, like
Hmm.
this is truth. This is what we're all thinking. And it was so thrilling, and it's still thrilling to be a part of that conversation, of a world where people are open and they're open to ideas and you can exchange those and it makes you feel part of something. And there's, so that's also part of it. Like having young gay writers come up to me and say, "Oh my God, like your poems
Hmm.
help me tell the truth." Like, there's something in that legacy of poetry that I've loved that I hope that I get to be in. So,
Yeah,
yeah, maybe
it's
I'll still say anything. I might be more chill, but I'll still say anything.
yeah, I think it's so wonderful to be so radically open because it just helps other people not to internalize things that they should know that other people, are feeling, and that's so wonderfully captured in your poems. And I love all the explanations of them and the context and the little digressions. It's been a thoroughly enjoyable evening, and
That
thank you so
that's
much.
the Thank you. There's usually two or three narratives running at one time. Like there's one here, one here, and one here. And I work a lot with 18 to 21 year olds who I adore. And there's just a lot happening with them. So I try so hard to be honest. I'm so open about mental health. I just think like
Yeah.
they need to know that like, we are all people. We're all like figuring something out. And all the writers that made me feel better for just telling the truth. And to be able to think that you can give that back, even on the smallest scale. Most of us will never be famous. Most of us are doing work in our little communities, and that's important work, though. That's where it happens. That's where, it all begins is in a small group. One thing, what is it in my religion where two or three are gathered in my name, we can just take God out and put anything in it, where two or three are
Hmm.
gathered in the name of rebellion, where two or three are gathered in the name of care,
Yes.
like that's where it starts, I think, in those little pockets. So.
Well, thank you so much for
Like I said.
being here and being generous with your time and your work.
Well, thank you. And I may have to go walk my dogs. I'm sorry. It's getting till 10 and I didn't realize that I
Understandable.
too long, so I will have to leave before. But you know, I'm on Facebook, Instagram. Feel free to follow me. I follow you back. I'm bad about getting on there sometimes and doing stuff. Today I just recorded a fuck you video and didn't really check anything else. I was very vague. I was like, for everyone in the world who needs it, I'll just say fuck you for you. That's all it was. There was no
Yeah.
mention personal, just fuck you, fuck this, fuck that, and let me speak for you today. I'll handle it. I'll carry that with you, for you, and you can just relax. So, but it's been a joy. I mean, thank you all so much. And I will tell any of my friends who you send an invitation to, I'll be like, yeah, do it. They're just lovely. It was fun. I prefer the intimate readings where we can talk and I can share more about my stories. It's like you're not standing up somewhere, it's like a cold room, you're just in your house and you feel like you can chat with people and they're comfortable. And I like that energy a lot. So thank you for inviting me. And thank you, Virginia. It's nice to be so funny. We got on the phone and I was like, blah, 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 blah. Never stopped. And I was like, I got to go teach in a minute, but blah, 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 blah. Yeah. More gossip. Yeah. So
Great. It was great.
thank you so much.
You were fab.
Thank you. I hope it didn't take up too much time. I'm realizing how late. I probably read too long, so I apologize.
No, that was what I was hoping for tonight.
Okay,
You
good.
could have gone longer.
Great.
We were in the
Yeah.
thrall.
Okay, good. I don't want to be.
We're so lucky.
Oh, thank you so much. My dog, I don't know if you hear him, he hears me getting ready to hang up. He hears the tone shift and he starts begging for food. Like a treat.
Nice.
Dress warm when you walk them. It's like wind chill below 0.
They're getting coats. It's a walkout and the little one gets carried and sat down and the bigger one right now. We have a whole process now in this ridiculousness. So
Nice.
all right. Thank you all so much. It was so lovely to meet all of you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Great to
Love
meet you also. Thank you.
Is anyone nice? Anyone want to read anything? You know what's funny? The poem I was struggling with that I read during the break when he said, you can chop the first 4 lines, first 4 and the bottom 5. And I looked at that poem and I was like, I can do. I just made a shorter poem that's much better than the one that I read, so I'm pretty excited.
I have to go too. I had a wonderful time. I'm glad you liked Aaron so much. He's a dear, dear man. He's amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much for lining him up, Virginia.
Yes,
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
I was happy to, and I'm glad you enjoyed it, and it was wonderful, and you were all wonderful. Thank you for letting me be here. I'll talk to you all later. Bye.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.
All right.
Yeah.
Anybody want to read, or should we say goodnight?
I'm happy
Let
to
me make
listen
the
if
choice
anyone. Oh, you make the choice.
I'll make the choice. No one's responding.
Uh,
Matt, what do you think?
should we say like going once, going twice?
Yes.
Press a button.
I'll say, does anyone want to read? And you'll say,
Going once.
Matt should read
Go.
something.
Who said that? Oh no.
I love to hear Matt always has something to read.
I could read one thing that's just the thing that happens to be pointed at me, and it's not long, I guess. And that way we can say we had an open reading at the end.
Or
And
you
then
could
if
read
anybody,
that thing you put on Facebook a while back that was so kick-ass wonderful.
oh, I would
if
never
it's
know
longer
how
than
to
5
find
minutes, I'm gonna go to bed.
it. Okay. This is
I've been on Zoom since 7 o'clock tonight. So.
this is short. We forget we have bodies. Notice girl with mutilated thumb, hammered, she says, into an abstraction by crush wound. The nails starting to grow back like a little hat for the potato face of it betrayed by beauty. Yet beauty is in how one moves, even if paralytic. She laces an arm around me with the intimacy of a shared skin. I place my foot up on the table and try to explain away toenails that haven't been clipped for a year, of having no address, avoiding security cameras, trained on our faces, living in trees and culverts outside the city. I notice my toenails look like scoops and explain, though it's not true, that I've let them grow this way intentionally to demonstrate their utility. I use them as little fans to wave a breeze at her, use them as dustpans to gather caterpillars of forgetful cigarette ash. I share this with her to commiserate that I was also forgetful. What she lost by being careless for an instant, I lost when I forgot parts of my body, once held dear, would be abstracted by a sort of fear that kept me moving. She matter-of-factly trims my nails. In turn, I suck gently her thumb, noting that it still has erotic potential. These cradled deformities we steadily remove from one another to reconstruct our bodies are allowed for now. Strengthen resolve for us to vanish into forests, bathe in sheets of rain, gather gray gradients along with the light we hope to see when returning at last to what is left of our bodies. I don't know. That just was happened to be open, so.
Good poem, Matt.
Good.
Thanks for all for materializing tonight. That was a wonderful, wonderful to see Aaron, and all the questions were so thoughtful, and I really enjoyed hearing things that were read. Jessica, I really enjoyed your poems a
thank
lot.
you.
Hope
Thank
to
you
hear
so
more,
much.
and of course, Doc, always good to hear what you're up to.
I
Did
have
you all
something.
meet before
Hold
this?
on, Doc has something. What do you have, Doc?
Its title is The Gray. Shades of gray, crystalline whites and icy winds, a winter day. I am indoors and I am warm, but I'm not warm. To my monk, your apricity, your warm glow, you beside me, the magic of you, the sound of your voice, the scent of you, the hineni of you, and the gray echoes.
Doc, the poet laureate of South Euclid, Ohio. Dr.
And the county, and of my online congregation.
Just when I learned the
Oh,
word,
yeah.
just when I learned Euclid, you've advanced to
South
counties-
Euclid.
South.
Not Euclid. Euclid's the wrong side of the tracks.
I think
Jackie, I loved your poems tonight too, or what you read earlier.
Thank you. Thanks
and,
for having me.
Ms.
Would love to hear
Whitten, you
more
had
sometime.
a question earlier.
Did you all read before Aaron read?
I do the Dire Literary Series every couple of weeks with a feature and an open. So that was at 7, and then I just kept the room open until Aaron came in. So
Oh,
if you're
Poetry
interested in
party.
another reading series, join the Dire Literary Series group on Facebook, and I have poets and fiction writers, and
It's an amazing series. Yeah.
I have FOMS, fear of missing something, so I hate when I miss poetry. So I'll join right in to that series. So